Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Tesla Model 3, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Stealth Hidden Trailer Hitch Receiver. When it comes to these Teslas, you know, they look awesome. Really streamlined cars, very sporty, and really have some good lines to them. So whenever you're not wanting to use a hitch or use an accessory, the last thing you want on the back of it is a big giant hitch. You know, and that's where this setup really shines. So when you're not using it, the receiver tube actually comes off and it'll be completely hidden. You'll have no idea that you even have a hitch on the back of the Tesla. So the way this works is pretty easy. You know, the most challenging part is these things ride pretty low to the ground, but you know, the small sacrifice to climb under here and take this apart is well worth it in my opinion. So to get the receiver tube out, you're gonna have this cover. You pop that off. You're gonna have a locking mechanism. So we'll unlock that. On this side, there's gonna be a handle. And when we turn this handle, it's gonna release the receiver tube. So, you know, keep a hand under this. It's heavy when you do this. That way it doesn't drop on top of you. You're just gonna rotate that. Receiver tube's gonna pop out. And then what you can do, just to keep this area protected up there, they actually give you a plug there. So you can just pop that in, keep everything covered up. Whenever the receiver tube opening is removed, you can see it looks 100% factory. Can't see that the hitch is there at all, and it has that really good appearance that we're all looking for with our Tesla. Whenever you are ready to use a hitch, it's gonna be just as easy to put in as it was to take out. You're simply just gonna reverse those steps, and you're good to go. Now, I'm not gonna lie, you know, if you just have the hitch back here and you're not using an accessory, I'm point out the obvious, you know, it does come way far out. It looks a little out of place on a Tesla, but honestly not that big of a deal, because if you plan on using it, who cares, right? If you are not gonna use it, drop it out and you'll never notice it's there. But honestly, they actually thought things through by making it come out so far. That's gonna give us some really awesome clearance, you know? So when you're using a bike rack, you know, particularly, you're not going to have to worry about hitting your bumper or anything like that, because a lot of those types of accessories will fold upright, you know, into a stored position. And by the hitch coming out so far, you're going to be able to fold it up and not have to worry at all about it touching the back of your Tesla. The receiver tube opening is going to be a 2" by 2", so that is a really common size, and a ton of different accessories will work with this setup here. With that said though, some people don't have 2" by 2" accessories. Some people already have 1¼ accessories that they really like, and they really don't, you know, want to get rid of them and buy a different accessory just so it can work with this hitch. And that's actually the situation that our customers in today. Not a big deal though, because there is an 1¼ by 1¼ receiver tube available. This works the same, you know, just replaces a 2" by 2" one. And that's what he picked up. So that way he can drop this 2" one out, put this one in, and use his favorite accessory still. So you definitely get a couple of options, you know, and if that's your case, go ahead and check this one out. And kind of talking about options, you know, one thing Stealth does really well is kind of finding packages, if you will, that will kind of meet the needs for everyone in their particular situation. So for example, the exact setup we have here today, this is going to allow you to use just accessories, right? Hitch mounted accessories. You can't tow with this setup. With that said, if you want to tow and use accessories, there's a kit available for that as well. So it's the hitch, you know, the receiver tube, they give you a ball mount, some wiring, and things like that. So it's a great all-around kit. You know, you can tow and use your accessories. If you're unsure if you're going to tow in the future, but you know right now you want to use accessories, there's also a kit that more or less like an upgrade type kit, right? That they give you the components that'll work in conjunction with this hitch that will allow you to tow. So, you know, like I said, if you were unsure if you're going to tow in the future, there's a possibility there. You can pick up this now, and if that's the case, if you do need to tow, you can always pick up that upgrade kit, set it up on here, and you'll be good to pull a trailer behind your Tesla. So the receiver tube is going to have a reinforced collar there at the end for a little bit of extra strength. and it's going to use the standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now keep in mind, doesn't come with a pin and clip, but if you need one, you can grab it here at eTrailer. So now let's talk a little bit about the weight capacity of this hitch here. It's just going to have a 350-pound gross tongue weight rating, and that's going to be the amount of weight that is pushing down on the hitch. So pretty high number actually. You should be able to use those 1 to 4 bike racks, and of course that's going to depend on how heavy the rack is itself, as well as how heavy your bikes are. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you can use these to help figure out which hitch mounted accessories will work best. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 9.5 inches. So if you can choose an accessory, try to get one with a rise in the shank. It'll just give you a little bit more ground clearance. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of our rear bumper, that's going to be about 1.5 inches. And when I say that, the hitch pin hole is actually going to come out past our bumper that distance. And you can use that measurement to figure out exactly if any of those folding type accessories you might have can be stored in that upright position without contacting the bumper. You know, if you're in the market for a new bike rack, a couple of them came to my mind right away, and that is the Thule Helium series bike racks. So there's a platform style rack as well as a hanging style rack. And I feel like those would be an awesome fit for the Tesla because they're made from aluminum, they're super lightweight, and they just have kind of that modern, you know, futuristic look to them almost. It kind of just vibes with the look of the Tesla, and I feel like a lot of people would be real happy with it. With that said too, you know, we've had quite a bit of experience with all different types of racks. You know, we put them on all different type of cars here at eTrailer. And those two kind of just stuck out to me right away as soon as I thought about it. So if that's something you're thinking about, probably definitely worth at least giving them a look and checking them out. So at the end of the day, you know, a hitch you really can't go wrong with. Not only is it going to look great when you're not using it, you know, it's virtually invisible, but it's super easy to pop in and use your accessories, so definitely get the job done. Now, as far as the installation goes, really not bad at all, believe it or not. I know as soon as I started with it and said, okay, I'm working on this Tesla today, I was a little reluctant. You know, it's a Tesla, just kind of the nature of the car, you might think it may be complicated, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. It really was not too bad. Handful of fasteners, the bumper comes off, everything's pretty easy to get to, so believe it or not, you might be surprised on just how easy it is to actually work on. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and put it on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our Tesla, and first thing we need to do is remove our tail lights. So go ahead, open up your deck lid there, and if we come into the corner, we can peel back the paneling to get to some fasteners. So you can just grab this carpeting here, just kind of peel that back, and we're going to have two 8mm nuts we need to pull off, so I'll grab our socket, get them removed. Then we can go ahead and unplug our light. So it's going to be a red keeper tab you can kind of pull out on that and squeeze down on the connector, and that will unplug it. If you look at the top of our tail light, we're going to have this knob. And if you can't get it broke free by hand, take a paper towel or a rag, pair of channel locks here, and very carefully just break it free. That way we don't damage it. And then we can remove our tail light. So careful pulling side to side like this. You don't want to get too carried away. But we're going to try to pull straight back on the light. There's some tabs in there that some like alignment tabs, and that's kind of what's hanging us up. You can get a plastic trim tool like this, kind of work it behind there to help free those alignment pins. So once we have it released, we can go ahead and set our tail light off to the side. Those are those alignment pins I mentioned. And we'll set this off to the side, And repeat this exact same process on the other side of our vehicle. As a matter of fact, anything we do from this point on to one side, we're also going to repeat to the other because they'll be set up the same way. With the taillight out of the way, that's going to expose a fastener here. And we need to pull it out. We'll use a 10mm socket. Now let's move to our rear wheel wells. And along this edge here, we're going to have two pushpin type fasteners, and they're going to be just like this one. So we have one in the corner and the same style one a little bit further back. It's a little tricky to see, but it is there. What you're going to do is take a pick or a trim tool or a flathead screwdriver, pry underneath the head of the fastener, and pull it completely out. There's a third pushpin type fastener here in our wheel well. So when you're taking these two out, go ahead and make sure to get that one out as well. Then if we follow the edge of our wheel well up, here where the fascia meets the quarter panel, we're going to have a torque spit fastener. So I'll use a T25 to get this removed. Underneath our vehicle, we're going to have this big gravel guard, and we need to get that out of the way or loosen it up. Each side there's going to be a tab like that you can pop open with a screwdriver, and we're going to remove the 10mm underneath it. And then we're going to have several more fasteners that we're going to pull out. So it looks like we're going to have two. Looks like we'll have a couple more on this edge. So it turns out that we actually don't need to physically remove this gravel guard, so not a big deal, one less step we don't have to worry about doing. But with that said, all these bolts are loose and out of it. With that said, we can lower the car back down and get to working on getting the fascia removed. Now at the next set of hands, we can get our fascia removed. I did put some painter's tape along the seams here, that way we don't have to worry about scratching up our paint. And what you're gonna do, I kind of broke this loose and it come apart real easy, but you're just gonna grab the corner and pull outward on it. You may need a trim tool like this to kind of push down on those keepers there to get it to release. We're just gonna work our way around all the way up to here. This one on the corner is really tight, but just be careful. Pry up on these. So you have the other side about the same. Can continue to work our way towards the middle here, and be careful when it comes free, don't pull it off all the way just yet. We want to make sure we look down and make sure we don't have any wiring attached. Looks like we have one connector here. So we'll pull back on that tab, push down on the middle of it to disconnect it. And so the fascia should come out along with that big panel underneath. So let's get this removed and set it off to the side somewhere safe. Now what we can do with the fascia out of the way, we have this plastic piece here, and we need to get that out of the way. That way we can expose some fasteners holding on our bumper beam. So there's going to be several 10mm head bolts kind of along the whole deal there. And we're not going to unhook it or anything like that. We just need to be able to have this little bit extra space, that way we can get to this hardware in this area. Now we're going to remove our bumper beam. So over here on the passenger side, we're going to have two 15mm nuts. Same deal on the driver's side, there's just going to be three, so I have one more, in the middle. We'll grab our socket and pull those out. So I went ahead and already got the nuts off the other side. What we're able to do, slide our beam off and set it to the side. Now what we can do is remove this support plate. So this is why we needed to loosen this up so we can get to this nut here. These are all 15mm head nuts as well. Get this last nut out of the way, and then we can set these plates off to the side. At this point, what we need to do is make sure we don't have any like sealer or anything in this area. Ours is perfectly clean, so chances are pretty good yours is too. If you do have some sealer built up here, make sure to scrape it off. Then over the studs, you're going to take these plastic type washers. Go ahead and just slide those over them. Now we can grab our hitch and get it into position. So this is simply just going to slide over the studs like so, and then on the outside stud or studs, if you have two, you're going to take the factory nut and get that started each side of the hitch, and then we'll come back, tighten it down, and then we can switch over to a torque wrench and tighten that nut down to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can pick one up here at etrailer, or a lot of times you go to your local auto parts stores, they'll have one available to rent. Now we can get our bumper beam, and we're going to fashion it to these included brackets. And so the brackets, you'll see there's a notch on one side of it. Make sure that notch is going to face up. All right, and the thick part of the bumper beam, that's also going to be the top side. So the holes in the bracket are going to line up with the holes in the bumper beam. You're going to take these bolts, put on a flat washer, drop them through the bracket like so, flip it over, and we're going to put on one of these nylon washers, plastic type ones. Kind of have to hold everything. It's a little tricky to keep it all together, but go line that up in the bumper beam. And then we're going to take a flange nut, hold that in there, and get it started. I really haven't found a great way to do this. You need a little bit of luck on your side to keep everything together here, but we'll just get these threaded, and we're going to tighten them hand tight. Do the same deal with this one here. Now we can take our assembled beam, and you can see those brackets are going to line up with the studs. So go ahead and get those on, and then we're just going to take the factory nuts, and we'll just get these on hand tight. Now what we can do is make sure that those brackets are kind of pushed as far out to the outside as possible. So in our case, it looks like the bottom one's moving just a little bit. We're going to hold them there and then tighten down these two nuts. From here, you want to make sure that your bumper beam is centered, and once you have it centered in your vehicle, we'll come back and tighten up the remaining bolts. Once everything's tight, we'll come back and torque the hardware down that we haven't done yet. But these ones, if they want to spin on you, what you can do is take a 17mm box wrench and come in from the back and hold the head of the bolt there. That'll prevent it from spinning, so you can actually get it torqued down. It is pretty tight, so you might have to kind of find that sweet spot to get in there, but it's definitely doable. Now we can take our receiver and put this in place. So you want the handle, this portion, to be on the passenger side of our vehicle. And those holes in there are going to line up with the holes in our hitch. I do want to mention, if you have the towing hitch, you know, there's some safety chain loops that go on with this at this point as well. So just something I wanted to point out. But you're going to take the bolts, try and get them lined up here. push them through. And on the other side, the bolts come out. You're going to take the included lock nuts. Get both of these started, and then we can tighten and torque them. So I'm using a 15/16 socket and box wrench to snug these up. Once those are tight, make sure to come back and torque them down. So what I went ahead and done was bolted this plastic bracketry back on up the opposite way that we removed it. And with that in place, now we can work on getting our fascia back installed. Now if we come here to our fascia, some models may have this, some won't. In our case, our fascia does, but we have this little trap door here. And before we put it back on, we're gonna remove it, that way the hitch will clear, it'll probably just go back together easier. So there's this 2/4 turn type fasteners. Take a flathead, pop that out. If yours does not have this, there is some trimming instructions, or trimming diagram rather, in the instructions, and you can follow that, and they'll have you cut an opening out, that way you can get to your hitch and everything else. Now with the next set of hands, we'll take our fascia and get it reinstalled. Don't forget to plug in any electrical, connectors that may have disconnected. When you're putting this back on, just take your time, make sure you go around all the corners and look and make sure everything's lined up. You don't want to force this in and break anything. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Stealth Hidden Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2021 Tesla Model 3.